Hey guys, it's Jeff with Student of Money. I want to step you through one of the current deals I'm working on just to show you how exactly profitable real estate can really be and how we analyze deals before we move forward. So in order to do that, we're going to go through a few basics here. We're going to cover it, and we got a list on the board. The first thing is when you evaluate a property, and especially when they do an appraisal, there's typically three categories that they'll use in order to determine the value of a property. The first one is a sales comparison. You should be familiar with that if you've ever owned a home or bought a home, where they'll take a look at what the sales have been in the area and compare them to likely sales within the last 6 to 12 months. The other one is the cost to build. What's it cost to actually build the property from scratch if you had to start all over? And the third one is the income approach. And this is what we're going to cover today because honestly it's the most important one. And it's where we really see the value in our property. So when we take a look at the income approach, we're basically going to take the income of the property minus the operating expenses, and that's going to give us the net operating income, or NOI. NOI does not include the debt service, which is your mortgage. So you take the NOI, net operating income, minus your debt service equals your income or profit for the month or the year. And to determine the value of the property, you take the NOI, divide that by the cap rate. Now the cap rate is a number that the market gives you based on your local conditions. It's going to take in consideration things like sales comparisons again. It's going to take in conditions of the property. It's going to take in deferred maintenance. All of those types of things are going to give you a market number, usually in a percentile, anywhere from 6 to even up to 12%. And so you take your net operating income divided by the cap rate for your property in your area, it's going to give you the value. So let's take a look at a stabilized 2-bedroom apartment complex that we bought 6 years ago. Again, it's a stabilized 2-bedroom unit built in 2000, so relatively new. It's got 16 units, and at the time of the appraisal, rents were $600. Okay? The yearly income on that property was $115,940. The expenses for the year were $52,835, or 45.4% debt-to-income ratio. You like to keep this debt-to-income ratio at 50% or below. So that's good. That's typical. Okay, that gives you a net operating income of $63,105. Now, for this appraisal, the adjuster gave me a cap rate of 8%, which is a fair cap rate for the market and for that property. It's a solid, good number to start with. Okay, so we take the $63,000 divided by the 8%, gave us a market value of $788,000. Now they deducted $8,000 for some deferred maintenance, so that gave us about $49,000 per unit. So that ended up being a $780,000 appraisal by the time they took a look at cost comparisons, income, and build. Okay, we purchased it 6 years prior to that for $615,000. So that was a $165,000 increase over 6 years. Pretty good, right? Give me another one of these. Where can I get that kind of return? So we're going to move to the next property. Our current property is a half a mile away from the previous property. Okay, so it's in the same market, it's in the same area, but it's an older building. It was built in 1979. It also happens to be student housing. It was built specifically for student housing. So it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen, no living room. Okay, plus it was built in 1979. This thing looks like it's 1979. Okay, hasn't been updated. It's had new windows. They put siding on it. But interior-wise, they put a few new cabinets in there, but it's pretty much still stuck in 1979. Okay, god-awful ugly. So we purchased it for $450,000 back in 2007. The appraisal is at $500,000 as is. Okay, but what we really want to do is we want to take a look at what's it going to be after. Okay, we want to try to get after the repair value of $700,000 to $800,000. And again, this is still a 16-unit complex, just like the previous one that appraised at $780,000. So we want to get it in that same ballpark. So here's how we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to put in $140,000 to rehab this property, and I'm offering investors a 15 to 20% return on their money for that $140,000. At 16 units, after it's rehabbed, rents are going to go up to $900, which is the fair market rent in this area. So 16 units at $900 gives us a gross potential rent of over $14,000 a month. Now we have to throw in some vacancy in there because we're not full all the time, but the vacancy rate's only 12%, would be 2 units. So we subtract out $1,800, so we have a pretty stabilized rent of $12,600 a month. Okay, we're going to times that by 12 to get an annual rent of $151,000. Okay, we're going to subtract out, over the last 2 years, this property has had pretty equivalent expenses as the previous property, right around $50,000. Now if we rehab this, we put in all new carpet, doors, cabinets, trim, appliances, whatever it may be, maintenance is probably going to go down, but we're going to leave this number in there as a nice conservative number to go with. Okay, that gives us a net operating income of $101,000, which is quite a bit. Now at this original appraisal, they gave it a cap rate of 9.5%. So if we go back to our equation of value and we take a look at $101,000 divided by a cap rate of 9.5%, that actually gives us a market value of over $1 million. Now, are they going to appraise it at $1 million when it's a 1979 original? No, they won't. But they're obviously going to raise it from this $500,000. We want to land in a $700,000 to $800,000 ballpark. Okay. And again, the cap rate, we should probably get better than 9.5, because once we've rehabbed the property and put a lot of effort and time into it, so, you know, it may not get to the 8%, which is the newer property, but we'll at least get to 9. And if you put in 9 for a cap rate, now we're at $1.1 million, okay? That's some serious appraisals. That's a serious cash. So now let's take a look at the debt service on this, okay? We already have a first mortgage from a bank, local bank. First mortgage is a balance of $383,000, and that's at a current interest rate of 4.35%, okay? This interest rate is good for another 22 months until 2020, okay? So that's fixed at a fairly good interest rate, where we see the markets, the interest rates are obviously going up. We're raising $140,000 in capital at a 15% interest. Okay, so the mortgage payment every month is $2,234. The 15% interest on $140,000 means I'm writing interest checks in a total of $1,750 a month to the investors that bring me the $140,000 in cash. We're paying interest only on the second, and we're paying both principal and interest on the first. Okay, so that gives me a total debt service for this property of $3,984. But again, if you take a look at the new income after it's stabilized of $12,600, that $50,000 a month equates to, in expenses, equates to $4,200 a month in expenses. That gives us $8,000 of new cash, minus the debt service of the first mortgage and the second lien of $3,984 in debt service. We actually cash flow at the end of the month $4,400 and some change. Okay, that's really good. So typically we're going to hold this property for 12 to 18 months after it's stabilized, and we're going to refinance it. Okay, so the new valuation, instead of the $1.1 million or the $1 million, we're probably going to run into the $700,000 to $800,000 arena, just like we did with the other properties, $780,000, somewhere in that area. Okay, let's just be conservative again. Let's take the $700,000. So we increase the value from the original $500,000 as is. After $140,000, it's now at $700,000. So now it comes in and appraises at $700,000. Now we want to do a refinance. A lot of times when you refinance, you cash out, they're not going to do it at 80% loan to value. They're going to be at a 70 or maybe a 75% loan to value. So at 75% loan to value, we're going to be able to get a new mortgage first for $525,000. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pay back everybody that gave us the $140,000 to reinvest and give them back their money. They've earned 15%, they're out. Okay? Then, obviously, we're going to pay the first mortgage, and we'll have a new mortgage of $525,000. Okay, so this is a perfect scenario of how, by putting the money in, we can pay 15% on this money. Now, 15%, that's pretty high. Okay, you're not going to get that in a typical market. You're not going to get that. A lot of times, you'd be lucky to get that in the stock market. So let's take a look at that analysis. So let's look at how we do the high rates of return, okay? So with a real estate project like this, you're going to have to park your money in the real estate while the property is being flipped or turned, okay? So again, we talked about 18, maybe 24 months, 12 to 24 months. 12 to 24, 18 to 24, 6 months of rehab, a month of stabilization, then we're going to refinance, okay? So the money's parked. What other vehicles are like that banks offer? Bank CDs. And we all know bank CDs do not give anything in interest, okay? So I went to the bank, I picked up some of their rate sheets, I took a look at two banks' rate sheets, okay? The best deals I could find, which was their specials that they were highlighting, they had an 18-month CD for 2.38%, they had a 30-month CD for 2.57%, and they had a 45-month CD for 2.87%, okay? That doesn't even keep up with inflation, okay? If you really want to make money on your investments and you really want to return and you really want to accelerate your returns, private placements are the way to go. You can put your money in at a higher rate of return, lock it in for that amount of time, which means you're not able to pull it out. It's not liquid, okay? This is in the property, and that's one of the things you really need to understand when you invest in real estate is slow to get into and it's slow to get out of. But the returns are phenomenal. And this is where the wealth comes from, okay? So when you take a look at where's the best place to put your money in, do you really want to put your money in a bank CD? No, because the reality is you're losing money in a bank CD. You want to put your money in something that gives you a higher return. Yes, you could put it in the stock market. If you want your money more liquid, then do that. Put your money in the stock market. If you want CD returns, but you want it to be liquid, then put it in a money market. But that's bad advice, okay? What wealthy people do, what rich people do, is they put their money in private placements. Now, most people don't know about private placements because you don't hear about them on the radio. They're not for the typical person. Sometimes you have to be accredited, sometimes you don't have to be accredited. And we'll talk about that in another video. But private placements are definitely the way to create wealth and to diversify your portfolio into real estate without having to manage the real estate. And that's what we do. Okay? So if you want to look at a deal like this, if you want to look at this particular deal, if you want to look at other deals, if you just want to see how we do the math, get a hold of me, get in touch, like this video, subscribe, and we're going to be talking about more of these as time goes on. Thank you.